With national currencies becoming unstable and devaluing from overprinting and debt, people who are savvy on currency are looking for alternative ways to engage in commerce. The natural choices are gold, silver, and private digital currencies like Bitcoin. But does that give us enough alternatives to avoid the costs of our debt-ridden national fiat currencies? I will show you another very different alternative in this video. I'm going to refer to some documents which you can get at freemarketcurrency.com. The reason that sound and stable alternative currencies are so important is not just that our national monetary system is collapsing due to our overprinting and overborrowing. It's not just that by using that currency we are required to pay taxes on our earnings in a tax slavery scheme enforced by the IRS. It is that by using Federal Reserve Note currency, 75% of your earnings are stolen from you. If you don't believe that, I will explain it. When you walk into a grocery store and pay $5 for a loaf of bread, how much of that $5 is simply paying other people's taxes? The grain farmer had income tax, payroll tax, business tax, various excise taxes, all kinds of fees and taxes. All of those taxes and fees had to be paid through the price of that bread in order for the farmer to stay in business. What about the truckers who moved the grain? They had income tax, commercial licenses, all kinds of taxes that went into the cost of your loaf of bread. Then there was the bakery that made the bread, paying income taxes, payroll taxes, business taxes of all kinds. Then you have the marketing company, the distributors, more truckers, and then the retail store where you bought the bread. All of those places paying personal and business taxes, all of which add to the cost of the loaf of bread. It is conservative to say that more than half the cost of your loaf of bread is other people's taxes. And then you have sales tax on the loaf of bread. And you have your own income tax, property tax, other taxes, licenses, vehicle registration, whatever. So when you see how everyone's taxes affect everyone else over and over, it is very clear that our system steals over 75% of our earnings, not just when we pay our taxes directly, but when we spend or receive Federal Reserve Note currency for any reason. Everything that is transacted in Federal Reserve Notes has a compounding tax that multiplies itself throughout our entire commercial system and inflates the cost of everything we buy. Imagine that just by using alternative private currencies for as many transactions as possible, you could save that 75% you are currently losing. So yes, we need to look at gold, silver, private digital currencies, but there's another method of alternative currency that we could be using, and that is the promissory note. If done right, the promissory note can be currency issued by any party, anytime, anywhere. That means you. You can issue currency. Anyone can. We think of a promissory note as a loan document. But that loan document, if created and handled a certain way, can be another private currency alternative like gold, silver, or Bitcoin, but with its own particular uses and advantages. Like gold, silver, and Bitcoin, promissory notes can be private, untaxed, and under the exclusive control of the issuer and the holder. A promissory note is really a loan document. A loan document usually has an interest rate, the amount borrowed, when the loan is due, who the lender is. But a promissory note that is intended to be used as honest currency is simpler. It has no due date and no interest. And the lender is whoever is holding the promissory note. It may sound a little complicated, but it is really very simple. A promissory note is nothing more than a store of value like any other currency. Many people don't know that Federal Reserve Notes are debt instruments that are loaned at interest cost to our government, so they had to create the income tax system as a way to collect those notes back and pay the interest. But when a promissory note does not charge interest and has no specified payback date, it acts as a debt-free, value-backed currency, giving anyone who holds the promissory note the right to redeem it for value. So that promissory note can be traded and exchanged for goods and services just like any other currency. When someone creates a promissory note and pledges some collateral, the promissory note becomes a backed currency, redeemable for that collateral. Federal Reserve notes used to be backed by gold until Richard Nixon just came out one day in 1971 and simply declared that our money was no longer backed by gold or anything else. And that is what can happen when you use currency issued by someone you cannot trust. From that date, our government has been able to print trillions of dollars out of thin air, and Federal Reserve notes become more and more worthless every day. They deliberately inflate Federal Reserve notes to enrich the creators of the currency at the expense of people like you and I who watch the value of our savings go down by inflation every month and every year. So Federal Reserve notes are backed by nothing, but a promissory note is backed by something of value. You can redeem a promissory note for that value. On the promissory note, it states the collateral. The promissory note is exactly as valuable as the collateral listed on the note, and the integrity of the issuer to honor that note. It is not possible to squeeze some tax or surcharge out of a promissory note if it is written properly. So the promissory note is the stable backed currency that society must have for ongoing stable commerce and growing prosperity. So how do we use promissory notes as a free market currency like gold, silver, or digital currency? It's pretty simple, but a few things have to be done right. We have some templates and instructions at freemarketcurrency.com, which you can print out and follow me as I explain this. First, let me emphasize that this method of currency creation and exchange should only be done with people you know and trust, family members, good friends, and reputable parties in your community. You would not loan money to a stranger, so you can't expect strangers to loan you money by accepting your promissory note. Also, bad actors like forgers, counterfeiters, and scammers can always come in and ruin everything if we're not careful. Like any contract, a promissory note is only as good as the integrity of the people entering the contract. So here's how you do it. This is our template for issuing free market currency. Put the current date as the date you are issuing the currency. On this line, you pledge something of value to provide the backing for your currency. Say you pledge an ounce of gold, a gold 1 ounce coin. That means you must have a 1 ounce gold coin, and you must keep it for redeeming your promissory note. If you play games and pledge things you do not have, you are no better than the scam artists who created the Federal Reserve. Whenever the holder of your promissory note turns it back to you for redemption, you must give them the value of the promissory note, in this case, a 1 ounce gold coin. If you hesitate or fail to redeem your note, you will not be trusted again, and you will damage the ability of society to engage in this kind of commerce. The good side is that when you create the promissory note, you can use it as currency. You are in effect trading your gold coin for something of equal value. You are spending your gold coin, but you're holding the gold coin for the holder of your note, so the note can be used as currency in place of the gold coin. So why not just exchange the gold coin? Exchanging a note is safer because if the note gets damaged or stolen, at least the gold is still safe and the promissory note can be restored. Again, this is just another alternative that works best in certain circumstances. In other circumstances, gold, silver, and Bitcoin may work better. But with a promissory note, you can have anything of value used as currency. So the promissory note can turn all kinds of valuable things into a consistent form of currency, which is easy to use and exchange. The collateral you put on your promissory note can be anything: your bicycle, your factory, 5 hours of your labor. It can be whatever someone is willing to accept as collateral. But the best thing you can back any currency with is gold and silver. For general circulation, most people need to know that their currency has good redeemable value. Theoretically, you could even back it with Federal Reserve notes, but then you're subject to taxation and regulation because the Federal Reserve note is not private. We have to report those transactions to public agencies. The most important aspect of any alternative currency is that transactions can be kept private so that plundering of citizens by institutions is prevented. On this line, you enter a serial number that you can create to specifically identify that promissory note. This becomes very important if you issue more than one promissory note because you'll need to keep track of which ones are outstanding and which ones have been redeemed. That unique serial number is necessary to handle and manage your promissory notes. On this line, enter the name you go by. When you issue currency, your reputation will be an important factor in how successful your currency will be. So you're putting your name on the line here. You could use a pseudonym or a nickname here, but your currency will be more legitimate if it is issued by a real living person with a real name and real reputation. You can be private to outsiders, but you cannot be private to your lender, the holder of your promissory note. The small print on this form explains the promissory note as a private currency and states your promise to redeem the note on demand. These lines are where you put your contacts. It is critical for those who receive this currency. This is who they will want to call and verify the value of the note or to redeem it. If these contacts are too sketchy or incomplete, people will have difficulty in having confidence in your currency. Because promissory notes are like loans, we must know and trust each other to use them. It does not work to be unknown to the person you are borrowing money from. People have to know who owes them money. Because it would be relatively easy to counterfeit a promissory note, your contacts make it possible for every person who is offered the note to contact you directly, confirm the note's legitimacy, and make sure the note has not already been redeemed. This person-to-person verification is necessary to help avoid any foul play. It may seem like Federal Reserve notes serve as private cash, but the fact is that most Federal Reserve note transactions are reported. With a promissory note, the issuer and the holder are in touch with each other, but they are not in touch with anyone who will tax them. On this line, the issuer signs the note with blue ink, so it is recognizable as an original signature. If you want to get tricky, you can put an additional identifying seal, sticker, or image on the note, and you can have it laminated so it is more durable for circulation. Now, the promissory note can be exchanged with anyone for the value of whatever you pledged as backing collateral on the note. Whoever holds the note should keep it safe and treat it like cash money, because that's what it is. Whoever has possession of this note has entitlement to redeem it for value. That promissory note is now a valuable circulating currency and can be exchanged confidently between anyone as long as the issuer guarantees redemption on demand. That free market currency can be exchanged among family and friends, and those exchanges are not taxable, not trackable, or anybody's business besides the issuer and the person holding the note. This is a way, for instance, that a freedom cell or a community can handle their own transactions without surveillance, tracking, taxation, or exploitation. Because of hazards of counterfeiting or scams, on the note itself, it explains that anyone who is offered the note for a payment should contact the issuer to verify the current value of the note. Again, it's critical that the issuer has the collateral at all times because they have issued real backed currency, and backing doesn't mean anything unless the currency can be redeemed at any time for the full backing collateral without delay or nuisance. Unless a community has developed a high level of trust in these notes, it may not make sense to use them for small transactions, say under $50, because there's a little time involved in filling out the note and arranging with another person to accept the note as currency. When the notes and the issuers are well known and trusted, then it can make sense to issue smaller value notes for more convenient trading. But the community should always take care to affirm that there is no foul play with the notes. The idea here is that in your community, each of these notes would circulate for a long time, and more of them would go into circulation, so that taxation and public debt can be reduced, and people would gain the benefits of using private, honest notes as currency and avoid excess taxation and invasive surveillance. At freemarketcurrency.com, you can also get this free download spreadsheet template to log the promissory notes you issue and keep track of which ones have been redeemed. You can fill it out on your computer or print it out and fill it out by hand. You can also simply use photocopies of your promissory notes as a record. Every time we circulate honest, stable, valuable backed currency, it is good for society, the economy, and the country because it reduces the amount of debt-based, unbacked, unstable, taxed fiat currency we are circulating. The Federal Reserve System is a crooked Ponzi scheme, And as long as we are using currency like that, we are tax slaves. When the central authorities reset our currency, the new currency always has the same problems because it is centralized currency laden with all kinds of policies, conditions of use, and violations of privacy. We need private alternatives like this to break those chains. These private promissory notes have advantages and uses that precious metals and digital currencies do not have. So promissory note free market currency should have a place in a healthy and honest economy. We are so accustomed to using corrupt and exploitive currency, it is hard to imagine how much better our lives would be if we were able to use untaxed, untracked currency that does not deplete our wealth as most national currencies now do. If you find this video, websites, and download templates useful, please consider making a donation of any amount to freemarketcurrency.com. There's a donation button on the website. If you have questions or comments, send an email to contact@freemarketcurrency.com. Your questions will help us update our website with helpful information. My videos are sponsored by long-term emergency storage food at the website preparewithjerry.com. Wholesome, appetizing food prepared and packaged for a 25-year storage lifespan. Protecting you better than an insurance policy because you can't eat an insurance policy. Better than your police department because your police simply can't help everybody when things get really bad. The idea is that no matter what happens, no matter how sudden, you will have food in the house. A month's worth of food, 2 months or more, whatever works for the size of your family and your desire to be prepared. When store shelves are empty or when it's not safe to go out, you don't have to worry. You and your family will be fed. Never before have we seen so many disruptions at once, like the lockdowns, pandemics, social unrest, foolish edicts by public officials, millions of people out of work, businesses failing, supply chain disruptions. And with things like this going on, we all have to decide how to react and how to prepare. The answer is not to live in fear, it's just to be prepared and then go on with your life. Go to the website preparewithjerry.com, find the solution that fits your needs, and then go on with your life.